You ever look around and realize the same people who call you friend only show up when it benefits them? When you're giving, when you're helping, when you're shining, they're there. But the moment you go quiet, the moment you need something, they disappear. Let me tell you something. No one is your friend until silence proves it, until loyalty costs them something, until you stop being convenient. Because real friends don't need a reason to stay. They stay when there's no applause, no spotlight, no benefit, just you. People like you only when you serve their interests. It's a hard truth, one that hits you in the gut the first time you finally see it clearly. Because for a long time, you thought kindness was a currency that would buy loyalty. You thought giving, helping, and showing up for people meant they'd show up for you. But eventually, life teaches you that for some people, friendship is a transaction, not a connection. They stay as long as the benefits do. And the second you stop meeting their needs, you stop existing in their world. You start noticing it in the small things first. The unreturned calls, the texts that used to come instantly, but now take hours or days. The energy shifts when you're no longer offering something they want. Maybe you're not as funny when you're struggling. Maybe you're not as interesting when you're not giving advice or making them feel better about themselves. People like that don't see you. They see what they get from you. They like the version of you that fills their voids, that makes their lives easier, that gives without keeping score. But the moment you run out of something to give, their affection runs out too. You realize that a lot of people are not in your life because of who you are. They're there because of what you do for them. They like your light, but they don't want to be there when it flickers. They enjoy your support, but they disappear when it's your turn to need some. And it's not always out of malice. Sometimes it's just human nature. People are drawn to what benefits them. The problem is when you confuse that dependency for connection. Think about it. How many people have you helped, encouraged, or stood by only to watch them vanish when the roles reversed? You poured into them, believed in them, gave them your time, your energy, your trust. You became their comfort zone, their safe place. But when you finally hit a low point, when you finally asked for that same level of support, suddenly they were too busy. Suddenly the conversations dried up. Suddenly the person who once couldn't live without you was living just fine without you. That's when it hits you. You weren't their friend. You were their resource. And that's where most people get it wrong. They think being kind means giving endlessly. They think love and loyalty are proven by how much you sacrifice. But the truth is, when you give too much without boundaries, you attract takers, not equals. You teach people that your worth is measured by your usefulness. And when you stop being useful, you stop being valued. People like you when you make them feel better about themselves. They like you when you agree with their opinions, when you laugh at their jokes, when you validate their choices. But start standing up for yourself. Start saying no. Start putting your needs before theirs. Watch how fast that friendship fades. Because the moment you stop catering to their comfort, you stop being convenient. And people who build relationships on convenience don't know how to handle your independence. You start to notice that people who once admired your strength are suddenly threatened by it. When you were soft, accommodating, easy to please, they called you humble, kind, genuine. But the moment you get boundaries, confidence, self-respect, they call you difficult, distant, arrogant. It's not that you changed. It's that you stopped bending for them. You stopped giving them free access to your peace. And that's the thing about serving people's interests. It disguises itself as love. They'll tell you, you're such a great friend. They'll make you feel needed. But the truth is, they don't need you. They need what you provide. Maybe it's your time, your emotional support, your connections, your humor, your presence. And when that supply runs low, they find another source. It's never about you. It's about the role you played in their story. At some point, you have to stop confusing attachment with appreciation, because real friends don't vanish when you stop feeding their ego. Real friends don't measure your worth by what you offer. They value you when you're empty, when you're quiet, when you're struggling. They don't need you to perform to keep their love. And the more you start filtering your relationships through that lens, the freer you become. You start realizing that your circle gets smaller, but your peace gets bigger. Because when you stop trying to be liked by everyone, you finally see who actually loves you. The people who stay when there's nothing to gain, those are your real ones. The ones who don't need constant access, who don't disappear during your silence, who don't compete with your growth. They're rare, but you'll never find them while you're busy entertaining those who only come around when it benefits them. The moment you understand this, you stop taking people's behavior personally. You stop asking, why did they leave? And start thinking, why did I let them stay so long? You stop chasing those who made their intentions clear through their absence. Because you learn that your value doesn't depend on who recognizes it. It exists whether they see it or not. People like you when you're useful. They like you when your presence serves their comfort. But that doesn't mean you have to become bitter. It means you have to become wiser. You start giving without expecting, but you also start protecting without apologizing. You start recognizing the difference between being needed and being valued. And you stop trying to prove your worth to those who only liked you for what you gave, not for who you are. Because once you see how conditional most people's affection is, you stop living to earn it. You stop explaining yourself to those who never intended to understand you. You start showing up for yourself the way you showed up for everyone else. You realize that you were never asking for too much. You were just asking the wrong people. The people who drained you didn't deserve access to you in the first place. They weren't your friends. They were placeholders, distractions, lessons. And every time you tried to make them stay, you were teaching yourself how to settle for less than you deserved. It's a painful realization, but it's also liberating. Because once you stop expecting people to value you the way you value them, you stop being disappointed. You stop letting their inconsistency define your worth. You stop mistaking their silence for your failure. And you start seeing relationships for what they are, not what you want them to be. So when people walk away after you stop serving their interests, don't chase them. Let them, because anyone who leaves when you stop giving was never staying for you. They were staying for what they could take. And losing people like that isn't a loss, it's clarity. Real friendship is proven in silence, not celebration. It's easy to be surrounded by people when life feels good. When you're winning, smiling, achieving. When there's laughter in the air, money in your pocket, and things to talk about, you'll find plenty of hands clapping for you. Everyone loves to stand next to you when the lights are bright. But when those lights go out, when the noise fades, when life gets quiet, and you're left sitting alone with your thoughts, that's when the truth shows up. Because silence doesn't just reveal your peace, it reveals your people. You start to see who checks in when you have nothing to post. Who calls when you disappear for a few days? Who notices the change in your tone before you even say something's wrong? Real friendship doesn't just celebrate your wins, it anchors you through your losses. It's not built on excitement, it's built on presence. Because real friends don't need a reason to show up. They don't need an event, a milestone, or an opportunity to benefit from your success. They show up in the silence, in those moments when you feel unseen, unheard, and unsure of yourself. When life gets quiet, fake friends get uncomfortable. because silence doesn't entertain them. It doesn't offer attention, drama, or energy to feed off. They'll vanish because there's nothing in it for them anymore. But real friends, they lean in. They don't need the noise to remind them you're worth caring about. They just do. They don't wait for a party to celebrate you. They celebrate you in private, in prayer, in the quiet encouragements they send when no one's watching. It's in those silent seasons that you realize how rare that kind of loyalty really is. Everyone wants to stand next to you when you're at the top, but not everyone wants to hold your hand when you're climbing there, because supporting you when you're struggling takes patience. It takes empathy. It takes maturity. And most people aren't built for that. They love the version of you that's fun, confident, and generous, not the version that's tired, confused, or broken. But real friends, they don't switch off when your light dims. They help you find the switch again. Silence is where masks fall off. It's where you learn the difference between people who talk to you because they care and people who talk to you because they're bored. It's where you notice who still makes time for you when there's nothing to gain. Because the world teaches people to chase noise, attention, validation, movement. But silence requires presence, not performance. And most people don't know how to sit still with you when things aren't exciting. That's why the quiet moments matter more than the loud ones, because they expose the truth behind every connection. Think about it. When was the last time someone just listened to you without turning the conversation back to themselves? When was the last time someone called just to ask, "How's your heart?" Not, "What's new?" When was the last time you were seen without needing to perform? That's what real friendship feels like. It doesn't demand. It understands. It doesn't wait for you to be okay before it shows up. It shows up so you can become okay. And here's the reality: real friends might not always have the right words, but they'll have the right presence. They might not fix everything, but they'll sit in the silence with you until you can breathe again. Because they're not there to solve you. They're there to support you. They don't need to post about it or announce it. They don't need credit. Their love is quiet but constant. You'll know who your real friends are when the noise dies down, when you stop sharing your success online, when you go through something that can't be dressed up with positivity. Because silence strips away the audience and leaves only the genuine ones. The ones who text you when no one else remembers your name. The ones who notice when your smile doesn't reach your eyes. The ones who show up when there's nothing to celebrate. That's love in its truest form. Real friendship doesn't need applause. It needs awareness. It's not about how many people show up for your birthday. It's about who shows up at your lowest point with no reason other than they care. It's the friend who drives across town just to sit with you in your pain. The one who answers your call at 2 a.m. The one who doesn't ask for explanations. They just listen. You can't fake that kind of loyalty. You can't buy it. You can't manipulate it. It either exists or it doesn't. When you go through quiet seasons, heartbreak, failure, loss, the silence becomes a filter. It separates the temporary from the true. You stop being angry at people for leaving because you realize they weren't meant to stay. You start appreciating the few who did. You learn that you don't need a large circle, you need a solid one. A few genuine hearts are worth more than 1,000 shallow claps. The truth is, silence is uncomfortable for people who are only there for the noise. But for real friends, silence is sacred. It's where connection deepens, where words aren't necessary, where being there is enough. That's the difference. Fake friends need moments to be seen. Real friends create moments that help you heal. And the best part is, once you learn this, your whole definition of friendship changes. You stop chasing crowds and start cherishing presence. You stop expecting everyone to understand you and start appreciating the few who do. You stop performing for acceptance and start choosing peace, because you realize that friendship isn't about who's around when life's exciting. It's about who stays when it's not. When everything goes quiet, when the celebrations fade, when the world stops clapping, that's when you'll know. The ones still standing beside you, those are your people. They don't need the spotlight to see your worth. They don't need the noise to remember your name. They were there in the silence, and that's where real friendship is proven. Stop expecting loyalty from convenience-based connections. That's one of the hardest lessons you'll ever learn, that not everyone who stands beside you stands with you. Some people are loyal only as long as it's easy. As long as you agree with them, help them, make them feel good. But the moment things get inconvenient, uncomfortable, or no longer serve them, they'll find a way to step back. Their loyalty isn't built on respect, it's built on benefit. And once that benefit disappears, so does their commitment. You start realizing it when you go through challenges. The people who once promised they'd always have your back suddenly get quiet. They used to say, "Call me if you ever need anything." But when you actually do, they're nowhere to be found. Because for them, loyalty was a statement, not a standard. It sounded good, but it was never real. It was conditional. They were loyal to their comfort, not to your connection. And that kind of loyalty only exists when it costs them nothing. Convenience-based connections are easy to mistake for friendship because they often start with warmth, attention, and shared interests. They text you when they need to vent. They ask for your help, your advice, your time. They love being around you when it's easy to be. But try setting a boundary. Try saying no. Try asking for the same energy back. Watch how fast their tone changes. That's because convenience-based loyalty only survives when you're giving more than you're getting. Once the dynamic shifts, so does their loyalty. Loyalty that disappears under pressure was never loyalty. It was attachment. People like that aren't committed to you. They're committed to what you provide. Maybe it's emotional support, validation, or access to something that benefits them. Once that purpose is fulfilled, they move on to the next source. It's not always malicious. Sometimes it's just self-interest. But the problem begins when you start expecting permanence from people who only came for the temporary. You'll notice these patterns if you pay attention. The ones who reach out only when they need something. The ones who check in only when they feel lonely. The ones who celebrate you publicly but disappear privately. Their loyalty is performative. It exists as long as it looks good to others or feels good for them. But when loyalty requires sacrifice, when it requires effort, they're suddenly too busy, too tired, or too distant. Because loyalty that's built on convenience can't survive discomfort. And it's not just about friendships. This applies to work relationships, family dynamics, even romantic ones. Some people are only consistent when consistency benefits them. They'll be loyal to your presence, not your person. As long as you're available, they'll stay. But the moment you start prioritizing yourself, the moment you stop saying yes to everything, they'll call you selfish because your boundaries expose their dependence. They don't want a balanced relationship. They want control disguised as connection. The truth is, loyalty isn't tested in good times. It's tested in absence. It's tested when you have nothing to offer. It's tested when you're misunderstood, when you're quiet, when you're rebuilding yourself. That's when you see who still shows up without asking what's in it for them. Because real loyalty isn't about benefit, it's about belief. They believe in you even when you're not benefiting them. They stand with you even when standing with you means standing in the shadows. It takes time to unlearn the habit of expecting loyalty from everyone you care about. especially when you've always been loyal yourself. Because if you're the kind of person who values consistency, it's painful to accept that not everyone thinks like you. You show up for people because that's who you are, not because of what they give in return. But most people don't operate that way. Their loyalty has fine print, as long as it's easy, as long as it's fun, as long as it's beneficial. Once those conditions fade, so do they. And when you realize that, it stings. You replay moments in your head, trying to understand how someone could act so genuine and still walk away so easily. You question your judgment. You blame yourself for trusting too soon. But here's the truth. It's not your fault for being loyal. It's their fault for pretending to be. You can't control someone's integrity, but you can control your expectations. And the moment you stop expecting deep loyalty from shallow people, you stop being disappointed by their behavior. Convenience-based connections will always leave you empty because they were never built to last. They were built for moments, not for meaning. They're seasonal, not steadfast. And that's okay. Not everyone is meant to be permanent. Some people are there to teach you how to discern, to show you the difference between loyalty that's felt and loyalty that's spoken. Because once you learn to recognize the difference, you stop handing out loyalty like it's free. You start making people earn it. Real loyalty isn't loud. It doesn't need attention. It doesn't need to be seen to exist. It's proven quietly, in consistency, in effort, in the small acts that no one notices. It's the person who keeps showing up even when it's inconvenient. The one who doesn't leave when things get complicated. The one who doesn't disappear when you stop being useful. That's the kind of loyalty you deserve, not the one that's comfortable, but the one that's committed. And once you stop expecting loyalty from convenience, your perspective shifts. You start appreciating people who stay when it's hard. You start valuing effort over promises. You stop getting angry when people show their true colors. You start thanking them for the clarity. Because loyalty can't be demanded, it's revealed. It's revealed in how people act when no one's watching, in how they treat you when you're not needed, in how they speak about you when you're not there. When you build relationships from that understanding, your peace multiplies. You no longer chase validation from people who never intended to stay. You stop giving to prove your worth. You stop being the only one trying, because you've learned that loyalty isn't about words, it's about endurance. And anyone who can't stand beside you in the rain doesn't deserve to stand next to you in the sunshine. So stop expecting loyalty from convenience-based connections, because real loyalty doesn't depend on conditions. It survives them. It doesn't fade when things get tough. That's when it shines the brightest. And when you find people like that, hold on tight, because in a world full of temporary ties, genuine loyalty is the rarest form of love you'll ever experience. Protect your energy. Not everyone deserves access to you. At first, that sounds harsh, maybe even cold, especially if you're someone who's used to giving freely, showing up for everyone, and being available no matter what. But there comes a point in life when you realize your peace is sacred. Your energy isn't unlimited. And every time you hand it to the wrong people, you drain yourself trying to fill others who only take. Protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's survival. It's the difference between being constantly exhausted and finally feeling at peace with yourself. You start to understand this the more you experience disappointment. The more you notice that every time you allow the wrong people too close, you end up feeling worse afterward. You walk away from conversations feeling heavy, not heard. You leave gatherings feeling drained, not fulfilled. You start recognizing that some people don't just take your time, they take your spirit. They come to you not to connect, but to consume. They want advice, validation, attention, energy. and they'll keep taking as long as you keep giving, because takers don't stop on their own. You have to stop them. The truth is, not everyone deserves the version of you that tries. Not everyone deserves the version of you that cares deeply, listens patiently, forgives easily. Because when you keep giving those parts of yourself to people who haven't earned them, you teach them that your boundaries don't exist. You teach them that access to you is free, even when it costs you peace. Protecting your energy means learning to be selective, not out of arrogance, but out of awareness. It's understanding that your emotional space is valuable, and not everyone knows how to handle it with care. There's a difference between being kind and being available to everyone. Kindness doesn't require access. You can wish someone well and still keep your distance. You can support someone's growth without letting them drain yours. The problem is, we often confuse being nice with being open. We think saying no makes us heartless, but boundaries are not walls, they're doors with locks. You decide who enters, how long they stay, and when they need to leave. And the moment you realize that, you stop apologizing for protecting your peace. Protecting your energy also means learning to recognize emotional red flags early. People who always make you feel guilty, people who compete with your happiness, people who only show up when they need something. Those aren't coincidences, they're patterns. Every time you ignore those patterns, you pay the price later in stress, confusion, and disappointment. Energy protection is emotional intelligence. It's learning that your intuition is there to protect you, not to be doubted every time someone else's behavior doesn't match their words. You start noticing the shift when you finally pull back. You become quieter. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop arguing with people who twist your words just to feel right. You stop giving endless chances to those who never change. Because you realize your peace is more important than being understood by the wrong ones. Protecting your energy means no longer attending every argument you're invited to. It means refusing to let chaos earn your attention. It means accepting that not everyone deserves a response. And the more you protect your energy, the more you attract people who respect it. The moment you stop overextending yourself, you start seeing who's there because they value you, not because they need you. You start drawing in people who bring calm instead of confusion, presence instead of pressure. You realize that energy doesn't lie. Your spirit always knows who's genuine. Some people's presence drains you because their intentions are selfish. Others fill you with peace because their intentions are pure. Your job is to learn the difference and protect yourself accordingly. You also learn that solitude isn't loneliness. It's maintenance. Protecting your energy sometimes means stepping back from everyone to recharge. Because when you spend too much time trying to fix or help others, you forget to heal yourself. You forget that your own energy needs tending to too. You can't pour from an empty cup, but so many of us try. We give until resentment builds, until we're emotionally burnt out, and then we wonder why life feels so heavy. Protecting your energy means slowing down enough to refill, reset, and remind yourself that rest is productive. There's strength in saying no. There's peace in walking away quietly. You don't need to announce your boundaries or defend them. Protecting your energy is often silent. It's felt in what you no longer tolerate, not what you publicly declare. It's the calm that comes when you stop chasing people's approval and start prioritizing your inner stability. You don't owe anyone your constant availability. You don't owe anyone explanations for choosing peace over chaos. The people meant for you will understand that, and the ones who don't were never meant to have that access in the first place. As you grow, your energy becomes your most valuable currency. You begin to see that everything in your life, your mindset, your relationships, your creativity, depends on how well you protect it. Negative people, unnecessary drama, toxic environments. They all drain the same battery your dreams depend on. And when you start protecting it, your focus sharpens. You stop wasting emotional energy on proving points. You stop chasing validation. You stop letting temporary emotions make permanent decisions. Protecting your energy gives you clarity, and clarity changes everything. Eventually, you realize that protecting your energy isn't just about keeping bad people out. It's also about keeping your best self in. It's about preserving your joy, your optimism, your empathy, your peace. You protect those things by surrounding yourself with people who recharge you, not people who drain you. People who match your effort, not manipulate it. People who celebrate your growth, not compete with it. Because the company you keep is either feeding your peace or feeding your exhaustion. There's no in between. And once you understand that, you start living differently. You start being intentional with your time, your conversations, and your emotional investments. You stop explaining your peace to people who thrive on chaos. You stop dimming your light to make others comfortable. You stop tolerating inconsistency from people who never earn consistency in return. You start treating your energy like the priceless resource it is, because that's what it is. Protecting your energy doesn't make you selfish. It makes you self-aware. It means you finally understand that not everyone deserves access to you simply because they want it. Access to your time, your energy, your mind, and your heart must be earned, not assumed. Because the more you guard what's sacred within you, the less life drains you, and the more life fulfills you.